Welcome. This is all minus one quick shots. All right, folks, today is April 19th. And being a Monday, I wanted to cover some things that have been in the news recently that may have escaped your view. Some international news, if you would. I may start doing this as a segment every Monday. I might start making, my own overlays for it or whatever else. But just generally speaking, it's good to go back and look at what has happened internationally in the news and see just kind of the larger picture of the world. Now, I get it. We often are focusing on negative things, but as society essentially accepts these negative things, that these negative things are good, there is an issue, there is a problem. And the first negative thing I want to talk about that goes around the world is from Vice. Guns in record numbers with barely any oversight. President Bolsonaro is encouraging weapons imports and shooting clubs, but discouraging the tracking of firearms and what observers say could be stoking violent crime. This was from February 12th, 2021. This is absolutely absurd and ridiculous. Violent crime is a large part of Brazilian life because of the corruption and poverty that has been there for over a century, right? So Bolsonaro has come along and said, we're going to get this corruption out. We're going to have less socialism. We're going to be less globalistic. We're going to focus on Brazil. And I'm going to let you defend yourself. Nope, can't have that because that would screw up the New World Order plans, which, guys, means that you can't defend yourself, because if you defend yourself, you cannot be owned by the state, of course. Now, is everyone who is anti-gun thinking this way? No. Are people in power who are anti-gun thinking this way? 100%. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Folks, they're not as dumb as they let on to be. Now, I think AOC is pretty much a moron, but she is still pretty cunning. And despite her lack of intellectual prowess or ability to state any sort of truth, any sort of actual fact, she is really good at emotional manipulation, and that's what all of this is about. And with that, she knows that she is the boss, supposedly. Remember?
I'm the boss. I'm the boss. Remember, you don't get to say I'm the boss.
That's not actually how that works as a freshman congressman. The people are actually the boss, and you are there to represent them. But let's continue on with the articles here. This was from March 15th. Brazil's Bolsonaro moves to arm base, alarming gun experts. Again, all of the regular conspiratorial imaginations of the left wing about Bolsonaro basically going to take over Brazil with this populist right-wing movement, that Brazil gets to be its own nation and not part of this global compact. Which is why also Bolsonaro has said stuff like, wearing masks are gay and such. More or less like Donald Trump, he knows how to set off the media and get the attention. So he essentially allowed the citizens to arm themselves. And here recently, which is really what I want to get to, we have a Brazil judge halts part of Bolsonaro's decrees to relax gun laws. And this was just a few days ago on the 13th. And many of you may not know this because most of you probably aren't looking at international news. But what we have to understand is the trends happening here in America or other parts of the Western world or the Anglosphere. And to claim South America or South American nations are part of the Western world is an interesting claim because they have a kind of sort of different heritage. They do come out of the Western tradition, the Spanish and Portuguese tradition. However, they are very much caught up in Catholicism, witchcraft, paganism, and socialism. So I don't know how traditionally Western their views are. They're very more progressive European in that aspect. And it, by the way, has destroyed about every single nation that has tried it. These nations have, for the last 100 years, of course, suffered immense instability, all kinds of economic turmoil, ups and downs in markets, as well as fighting deep-seated crime because they have been invested in the drug trade. And instead of the government's actually making a commodity of these things and regulating it and doing whatever, of course, they couldn't think to do that. They've either joined the corruption or they took foreign money, like from the United States, to help beat down this drug trade. Nothing intelligent whatsoever about it. But in any case, let's continue. It says a judge in Brazil's Supreme Federal Court on Monday suspended parts of 4 decrees issued by President Javier Bolsonaro, relaxing the country's gun control laws. Bolsonaro issued the decrees on February 12th, and they were to go into effect Tuesday. Justice Rosa Weber's decision regarding the decrees will be analyzed by the plenary of the court from Friday, along with other appeals filed by multiple groups against the right-wing president's arms policy. Notice the framing, folks. Notice the framing. By the way, I will frame all I want, but I'm also giving you my political biases up front. So this isn't how you do that. Now, if you're aware of framing, you know that they're giving you political biases up front. By the way, folks, if you can't see in the corner there, this is from France. This is a France 24 article. That's important, too, to recognize and understand the media outlets and what they say and where they come from. And again, it gives you a sense of where we are at in the world, in the westernized industrial world, how our thinking is going. And I'm telling you right now, folks, it's quite degenerate. It's quite screwed up. It's all about statism. It's all about central authoritarian power. It's all about all kinds of arbitrary rules and rules that aren't applied equally across the board. And it's all about globalism. So, it says, among other changes, Weber eliminated a section that increased the number of firearms Brazilian civilians can own from 4 to 6. So what's the big deal? 2 more guns? The section also would have allowed police and other security agencies to own 6 to 8 guns. Ooh. She also removed the section that authorized people to carry up to 2 guns in public instead of 1. Why? Why? They can already carry a gun. So you can just carry a bunch of magazines unless the police are pulling you over and searching you. How would you know anyways? These people. You cannot restrict a fundamental thing like people defending themselves or arming themselves. I'm sorry, folks. Whether you believe in it morally or not, that's another question. But that kind of morality cannot be handed down upon high from a court or a centralized government. She also removed a section to authorize people to carry up to 2 guns in public instead of 1, another part that increased the amount of ammunition that hunters and sport shooters can buy, blah, blah, blah. There is unequivocal correlation between the facilitation of population's access to firearms and the division of these products to criminal organizations, militias, and criminals in general. No, there actually isn't. It's quite the opposite. In fact, the criminals tend to be far more armed when you restrict it amongst the population through robberies and clandestine trains. Bolsonaro, a former army captain, is an outspoken gun rights advocate, yada, yada, yada. We can go through it. But essentially, the courts in Brazil struck him down. And we've seen similar things with the more populist toward the right center, not right libertarian or right constitutionalism, but right center in America under Trump. We saw many of these things. And most of the stuff that Trump wanted to do was absolutely, completely fine within his power and constitutional. But the court struck it down because of politics. Now, some things he did, the court didn't strike down, like his executive order on bump stock bans. Should have been struck down because politically they liked that and the politics to that were good. You have to understand this. However, executive orders to do anything with firearms are unconstitutional. It's just not in the purview of the president. So in other news, young woman dies after getting legal abortion in Argentina. This was April 13th. Again, talking about degeneracy, folks. Degeneracy is individual and it is in the governments. And the governments are just made up of the people. Why you think they are some sort of organization that is all of a sudden going to be the most moral and ethical thing ever because they have all the guns and all the power and make all the rules. I mean, how stupidly naive do you have to be? I just don't understand why you would give anyone that sort of power. The best thing that we can do is, again, disseminate that power as much as possible, like it's supposed to be here in the United States. Unfortunately, it is not. So it says a young woman in Argentina died April 11th following a legal chemical abortion that forced a such recorded death after the passage of a law legalized abortion in December last year. And it gives the lady's name. She was a 23-year-old student. And this is an article from the Catholic World Report, Argentina being, as most South America, a very Catholic nation. So, of course, they're not fond of this, but they don't do a lot of full reporting or framing. They're just talking about the woman's death and what happened. Apparently, she died of an infection. But here's the real skinny is supposedly, this is from Remix, she was a pro-abortion leader. Supposedly. That is what is going around, and I've seen several articles saying this. So this is from April 15th. Now, this was left out of the Catholic article, but Spanish language media reported last Sunday that radical pro-abortion supporter died during what she labeled as her dream abortion operation. Now, if that's a quote, the word dream is there, but the quote from her is not there, so I don't know what she said. I don't know how involved she was with this movement. But make no mistake, folks, that murdering your baby in your womb, no matter where it is at, is the destruction of a life. Once that semen and that egg combine, it is a new being with a absolutely unique genetic structure that has never existed. A unique thing that you have decided to destroy because, well, I would say that you're selfish because you can't put your own selfish desires aside for 9 months of your life. And I know a lot of you women, you've never had children. You think that this is no big deal. And I've known people to have abortions before. You know, it is what it is. It is the world that we live in. I'm not going to sit there and call them all kinds of horrible names or whatever, because that's just generally not how I approach things. But I tend to feel sorry for them, that they are lost, and that oftentimes folks that do these things justify it. I actually had a lady tell me once that she voted for Obama because he was pro-choice, and she once needed to make that choice. This is a woman who was in her mid-40s, who never had children, was never going to have children, but at some point in her early 20s, I guess, had an abortion, and that was perfectly fine. Perfectly fine with her. So, okay, sure. Whatever. What is your life going to be as you get older? Is your life going to be bar hopping still? I mean, at this point, that was, 10 or more years ago when I was a little bit of a younger man myself. At this point in your life, probably in your 50s, what are you going to do? In your 60s, who are you going to be with? You're going to hope you're still with your husband? Who, I know issues with, but just saying. What is your life going to be as you continue to get older? For a lot of people, emptiness. And this lady advocated for this and paid the price because she did this. Of course, any procedure can be dangerous, so let's not get hyperbolic upon this, but obviously murdering your own baby is quite sad. I don't care what part of development it is in. So in some further news from, again, around the world and just general crazy degeneracy, we have a vaccinated Minnesota nurse stuck in Mexico after testing positive for the coof. Now, this is sort of an old story. This is from the 5th. But I found this quite interesting given that this lady was vaccinated, tested positive, and she's waiting in Mexico to get back into the United States. Meanwhile, migrant workers come across the United States border and they get raped, repeatedly, I've read this article to you before. This is from the New York Times, and talks about the horrible things that happen. By the way, this is from March 3rd, 2019. You have to pay with your body the hidden nightmare of sexual violence on the border. But anyways, so this regular random person goes down for whatever reason, had the vaccine, still gets the coof because it's a prophylactic, guys. It's not a vaccine. Sorry, YouTube. You can do what you wish, but there are technical terms, and vaccine has a technical application to it. And this is not that. It's a prophylactic. So the shots, the jabs, they're all prophylactic. Some of them, of course, have been taken off the market. I don't think you should be getting these, as there are no trial runs and there is no data at all about mRNA vaccines. At least any human data that I'm aware of. I'm not really sure of any animal studies. But as these things happen with people who come over illegal and the left continues to prop this up, these women get raped, and then they're all serious about the coof and things like this happen. Sorry, guys, this thing's being buggy on me. Vaccinated Minnesota nurse stuck in Mexico. Well, these illegals are coming over, testing positive for corona, and they're still being let go. Or they're testing positive later after they were let go. Are we going to take this seriously? You know, I mentioned before on the show, the NCRs Defy the Memes, that is last Wednesday. I had some memes about this. I mean, they weren't the most pleasant thing, but there was a case. I don't know what happened within my system where it went to, but there was a case where a woman who was a nurse took the vaccine while pregnant and was in later stages of pregnancy, was quite large and showing. Apparently had a miscarriage. Now, I didn't go back and fact check all the stuff because I don't know what happened to the meme, so I couldn't check into it the way that I wish to. I have to go back and find where I got it from originally. But I have no doubt that it happened. And these people still make excuses in their mind for doing this stuff. They still make excuses for letting these migrant immigrants out with the coof, run around, but yet say it's such a horrible thing that we have to lock everything down. Again, it's just complete ridiculousness and is part of this degeneracy. And meanwhile, New York's vaccination passport has massive security flaws and barely functional. Thank God government is incompetent. Again, this was from April 6th, so it's a little old. About 2 weeks or so, but that's good. That's a good thing, as Bernie Sanders once said. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that you have no choices. No, it's not a good thing that you have no choices, but it is a good thing that this is not working well because we don't want to be like the CCP. And unfortunately, right now from the South Chinese Morning Post, we have Chinese universities should produce inquisitive thinkers who are totally loyal to the Communist Party, says Xi Jinping. The Chinese president says the education system must train and build the successors of socialism during a visit to the Tsinghua University. I don't know if I pronounced that right, guys. Xi says Communist Party needs to encourage scientific talent and innovation. And part of this is, it says in the centenary year, part of this is because of, the 100-year plan. Part of this is the call for masculinity to return in China and to get rid of the femboys. Guess who's going to be the new world leaders, guys? You know why? In part, it's not just because of stuff like this. It's because they continue to do stuff like this as well. China's former trade chief pushes for U.S. to join mega Asia-Pacific deal with a more positive attitude towards multilateralism. Basically, this is going to favor China, guys, every single time, because when they get together in these trade organizations, see, in the news, they try to make it sound like, oh, it's America versus China. No, it's not. That is, again, naive, or at least ignorant. They sit around with other international bodies and people involved in all these other NGOs, right? All the World Bank, the the Council on Foreign Relations, the UN, right? All these other groups that are out there that dictate policy to the policy makers. See, the policy makers actually don't make any policy. They're just mostly figureheads. And as they do that, they're pushing for China to have a bolder economy, to have a stronger military, to have a stronger nation in general. And they're phasing America out as a superpower, guys. It is just the reality. China deploys long-range rocket launcher as deterrent to India. And this is the other thing, is that military operations in China have been ramping up against India for some time with border disputes. Of course, we know about the invasion of Hong Kong. And they are gearing up to probably take over Taiwan here eventually. This is all very troubling, and it should tell you something. It should tell you something about China's thought process of its expansion. And you have stupid people over here in the West who go, oh no, China, they don't think like the West. They don't have Western ambitions. Look, guys, we can get into how people think in different cultures, but the reality is we are all human, and it all comes down to basic things. Power is one of them. You know, the postmodernists were not wrong about that. What they are wrong about is power is not everything. But power is a great motivator, and many people will do what they do based on their desire to gain control and power. And power is seductive. Usually not to the masses, actually, but to certain people, and people generally who would misuse said power. Meanwhile, we have from the Gateway Pundit, satanic prayer on hating white people included a new prayer book being sold at Target. And this is with a video. And I saw memes of this going around, wanted to get it in the show, never did. That is over at the Ends Justify the Memes. And
we told you about the new guidelines from the CDC that say vaccinated people are safe to travel domestically.
Give me a second, guys. I don't know what the random audio was. Here we go. Well, my prayer is that you would help me to hate the other white people, you know, the nice ones. The Fox News loving, Trump supporting voters who don't see color, but who make thinly veiled racist comments about those people. What are you doing now, bigot, writing such words and painting all white people the same? See, if the left didn't project so hard, I probably would listen to more of their silly arguments. But guys, this did go around. You can go look it up. It was literally a prayer book, and it was a prayer book about how to hate, or one of the prayers within the book was about how they could learn to hate more white people. Because being a bigot and a racist toward white people is okay, and being white is not. Ex-California mayor who advocated for defunding police arrested for child sex crimes. Imagine that. So, Sebastopol police booked 44-year-old Robert Emmanuel Jacob
and internationally
on 11 felony
one
counts.
Local nurse learned the hard way that it's not always that simple.
Well, good Lord, I don't know what's playing automatically in the background, guys. Apologies for that. So, ex-California mayor who advocated
Heidi
for...
Wigdahl tells us how she got stuck in Mexico.
Oh, man, it could be a long...
Look at that. Easy way to fix that. Anyways, ex-California mayor who advocated for defunding the police arrested for child sex crimes. Once again. Oh, that's where it's coming from. Got it. All right, guys, I am almost out here, almost done. So, lastly, let me reiterate that. California, we were just talking about the Chinese before that. California, ex-mayor, advocated for defunding the police, arrested for child sex crimes. Not exactly a bastion of morality. The identity of Ashley Babbitt's shooter is Lieutenant Michael Leroy Byrd. Mr. Byrd here has come under no charges. His identity has not been talked about. And he is a black man who killed a white woman. Why is this not seen as racist? Again, this is where we are at in the world. Now, I don't think it was a racist act at all. I think this guy was itching to shoot somebody because he was a moron and not well trained, and he shouldn't have a job. There is no reason why Ashley Babbitt shouldn't be dead today. But again, we have two sets of rules today. You need to know that we live in a society. We already live in parallel societies, folks. We already live in parallelism under the law. We'll see how this George Floyd case, Derek Chauvin trial, plays out. There are going to be riots regardless. But we'll see if there's true justice or not. We still have to consider Rittenhouse and the, I can't think of their name, but the old couple down in, St. Louis, where the people went on their yard and all they did was expose their firearms. Now, don't get me wrong. They had crap firearm skills, but still, they have a right to defend their property. And much like back here in this article from Brazil, the masses are starting to believe that, no, you do not have that right. You do not have a right to self-ownership. In the end, that's what this comes down to. And the crazy thing is the conflicting nature of these things. This woman believes she has such a right to self-ownership, she also owns the separate entity growing within her body. She paid the price for that belief with her life. Then we have this that just happened the other day. This is from the New York Post. FedEx shooter Brandon Hull was obsessed with My Little Pony reported, and there is no way that any brony is in their right mind. In any case, I actually brought this in for a little levity, but guys, this was the first time in a little while that they could get a mass shooter who was actually white, so they did. And the guy seems to be pretty weird. It says some members are sexually attracted to characters, while the group also had allegedly displayed far-right tendencies. What is a far-right tendency again? In the framing of the French Revolution, in the American comparative, far-right means you want a constitutional government. That's all it means. Which means that less government, more freedom. Apparently that's dangerous. More government, less freedom. Slavery is the only way that we can protect ourselves. And finally, guys, not to be forgotten, but probably actually one of the most important items, and good news. Staff Sergeant Sniper told me about this last night. We were just chatting with him on Twitter for a little bit, private messaging, that kind of thing. Said Utah reporter condemned for tracking down paramedic who donated $10 to Kyle Rittenhouse defense. Now, this is good. The journalist was shunned, but the reality is he tracked down this guy who basically anonymously gave Rittenhouse or the defense fund for Rittenhouse $10. They tracked down this paramedic. This guy got fired, all kinds of other stuff. This is ridiculous. Once again, though, if you do not have the correct political stances, you are a deplorable, right? And the reality is, guys, it's actually the people who are, generally speaking, I'm not saying I don't know how they live, but I'm saying generally speaking, it's actually the people who believe in strong moral foundations that are the ones that are targeted, right? Because the left, as we can see from article to article, such as stripping your gun rights away, such as having abortions, right? Such as the migrant crisis issue and allowing these people to be sexually violated and then say, oh, no, it doesn't happen, and ignore it. To tracking your own citizens over a cold, to supporting regimes such as China. And our fearless leader, Joe Biden, said, oh, it's just cultural differences why they imprison, sterilize, and re-educate and murder Uyghur Muslims. It's why we go along with these trade deals and why we will let China build up its military and do all of these horrible things over time. It's why satanic prayers about how God can help folks hate white people more are coming about. It's why people vote for scumbags like this former mayor who's actually involved with child sex crimes. It's why Michael Leroy Bird isn't named by anybody or held accountable by anybody because, well, a woman who was annoyed with her government went to the Capitol, so she deserved to die because how dare she question her government? And then we have this. This is the real problem. The far-right extremist bronies. The bronies. They're coming after everybody, folks. Meanwhile, reporters are going after paramedics who are desperately needed, folks. Being a paramedic is not an easy job. It will wear on your body and your soul. And I can tell you, having many of friends who were paramedics, who worked in fire and police and from the hospital and whatnot, it's an interesting profession that's pretty fast paced and either way, I don't think that a guy donating $10 deserved to be doxxed by the Guardian. I don't know. I would call this segment This Week in Stupid, but everyone else does that. So perhaps, again, I will start with a new segment on this instead of doing a quick shot, because this isn't so quick, right? And call it This Week in Degeneracy. This Week in Degeneracy. Because, man, degeneracy is all around the world today. And it is sad. It is very, very sad because, at least in the past, these things have always existed, but the majority of the leadership were not encouraging such bohemian ways, such free, hedonistic, libertine ways, right? I don't know. Hey guys, before I get off here, I don't think I'm going to have a story time this afternoon, just because I, once again, as I did my little house cleaning video, have stuff to take care of. And I did not get to bed till very late last night, and I got up semi-early, considering how late I went to bed. But, I can sit here and try and do videos, which I love to make for you, and I love having the conversations with you guys, but I have to take care of real life. Real life has to come first. And not that this isn't real life and these things aren't important, but, take care of your own house first. So I got to do that. I got birthing classes tonight, and I have to be, and I will be over on Yiz the Eunuch's channel at 6 p.m. on her Dragons of Discord stream, which will have Matt Christensen and Don the Pleb on as well. And I won't be there that long because I have to make it to the classes, but is going to be fun, I hope, and it'll be good to talk with Matt because it's been a while. I think I called into a show a while back. Got to talk with him one-on-one because Rebecca was gone, but otherwise it has been some time. Anyways, guys, with all that said, this has been all minus one quick shots, and I wish you all well.